And we're here.
Awesome.
Look at that. I think this is the first time in weeks, months maybe, where the live button actually worked on the first click. So I'm pretty excited about that.
That's
not going to lie.
That's
the little
right
things. Yeah. Little bitty things make a big deal difference, you know. So, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, welcome to Triple B, special edition of Triple B, as we welcome Aaron from Texas Precision Performance back to the show. Aaron, you were on the show dude, it's been a while, like a year and a half ago, something like that. 2 years ago, maybe.
Was it?
It was probably a year and a half.
Yeah, it's been a while. So, so we're like the Texas trio here, and and Aaron and I were talking the other night, and I said, dude, you need to come back on the show, and he said, I'm down for the show anytime. And so, so welcome to the team, dude. So Aaron is now another beard in the Triple B arsenal. So welcome.
Might have to grow it a little bit more.
Thank you for coming, and cheers and all those things. Let's see where everybody is tuning in from tonight. I'm going to be playing with some graphics here in a little bit as well, but let's go to the comments. Barn in the house. Barnalicious, thank you so much for joining us. Edward as well. Scott, Steven, everybody in the house. Also, before we get really rolling, I want to thank everybody. You may have seen the announcement. Honestly, I wasn't planning on making some big announcement about this, but Brian did and wrote a very nice thing. My partner in crime, for another approximately 29 hours, Brian Loans wrote a really nice thing on Facebook about our 16 years of Bang Shift, as he is no longer going to be a part of the company. I mean, obviously all the history and everything with it is great, but we've been working on a thing for a while, me and him and Wes Allison, our other partner that many of you know, but probably didn't know was a partner. And we've worked out a deal where, Wes is retired. Brian's got 8 million other things going. And I really got some cool stuff I want to be doing with Bang Shift. And so we made a deal, and I was able to acquire sole ownership of Bang Shift. So it's officially official on November 1st at 12:01 a.m. So thank you so much to those two guys. Really appreciate everything for them, and appreciate all you guys. Like, there were so many awesome comments on his Facebook post. I just haven't had time to put one up myself, but it was very cool. So I appreciate that. So thank you, Brian. But we have lots to talk about today. So in fact, I need to make some notes because there's some other things. So on our list today of topics, right, we're talking about new tracks, newly open tracks, closed tracks. We're going to talk about street outlaws, and we are also going to talk about the Tailgate Throwdown, of course, which, hey, see, I'm wearing my hat.
I see that. I was going to say, that's a nice hat.
There, hey, I knew a guy who got me a lady that would take my money. And so we're going to talk about Tailgate Throwdown, and then one other thing I wanted to talk about, maybe a little bit if we have time, is Kenny Nalling at the head of IHRA again. So, or now, not again. So yeah, we have lots to talk about. If you guys have topics you want us to touch on in the chat, then whether you're on YouTube or Facebook, doesn't matter, comment wherever you're at. And we'll see those here on the screen. So to all of you guys that are going to Famoso this weekend and doing that deal, man, jealous, love that place. Hoping to be back for the March meet at some point. So yeah, anyway, how are you guys today though? Aaron, you doing good?
I'm awesome. I mean, this is a great day. It's a nice warm day in Texas.
Yep. Wait, it's a warm day in Texas, which means we have a threat of thunderstorms tonight. So,
of course.
Yay.
Hey, job security for this guy.
Yeah, I was going to say. drink adjuster down here. Yes, I'll come look at your hail damage.
Hey, next few weeks I'll just be writing checks.
And it ain't your money, so you don't even care.
It ain't my money.
Well, meanwhile, the rest of us are like, man, how do I get the car out of the hail?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Right? How much hail damage do I need to total an Equinox?
Not much. I mean, we had a big hailstorm come through in into July, and had softball size hail in some places, mostly baseball size hail. Had to replace a lot of roofs. Cars look like a golf ball. Part of my trailer, my 40-foot enclosed trailer, looked like a golf ball. The roof especially.
Really?
The amazing part about this, though, and I will heed this to anybody that gets hail damage on a trailer. I have 050 exterior on my trailer.
Yeah.
When it heats up to 100 degrees outside, you'd be amazed how many of those little dents go poop back out. So before you go and submit it.
Yeah, it's funny because it'll do that on a car too. If it's the warm enough. A white car is a little harder, but a hot, black car or dark blue or gray, they'll do that on occasion, which is pretty cool.
Oh yeah.
Metal go back to its original shape. It's just sometimes it needs a little help.
Oh yeah. Yeah. We had a hailstorm up here back in spring, and it blew in sideways at about 80 miles an hour. And I had to go work a bunch of cars that were at a solar farm.
Oh,
and you should have seen the solar farm. It was awesome. It was destroyed.
Really?
But they had trailers out there, and it hit the sides of the trailers so hard that it started ripping the metal off the trailers.
Wow.
I've never seen hail that bad. I was like, this is, and like every car was parked, north and south. One side was beat to death. The other side was perfectly fine.
Totally fine. Yeah.
Sideways it was.
That's the way ours came in from the north.
Yeah.
Yeah. And how bad was the trailer? I mean, is it okay now, or did you redo it, or yours?
No, it's fine. It's good enough. I mean, there's probably about 20 little hits you can see on the side of the trailer. The roof's still a little bit worse for wear, but I mean, you don't see the roof, so I don't really care.
Right.
It's good enough, because with the trailer, here's the other thing. They have to replace the entire side of a trailer if you have hail damage. If you have two panels that have dents in them, they replace the entire side.
Oh, that's right. Because if you're not aware of how they go together, the only way you could replace just one panel would be if it was either the front or back, depending on which way they started laying them, because the way they interlock with each other and the way that they're literally double-sided taped together on a rivetless, trailer, there's no way to get like one panel out without tearing all of them off. So, yeah.
No, the insurance company told me they would have to replace the entire side of the trailer. My problem with that is my OCD. Now I've got a trailer that has a brand new side, 2013 trailer, and then I have another side that has zero damage, but it's now faded, So
that's funny.
I can live with it,
Yeah.
Right.
I can live with it.
That's hilarious.
Chicks dig scars.
Do what?
Chicks dig
scars.
Yes, exactly.
Scars and fast cars.
Yes,
it's funny because depending on where you are in the country, you got to deal with different weather stuff, obviously. Here in Texas, we have, big thunderstorm stuff. So you get, trees and hail and all that kind of stuff. But then the other thing is that down here, we are far enough south that the sun just beats the holy hell out of a car. I mean, I laugh because the other day I had this conversation with a guy about a C10. He found a C10 that was online, that was a square body, that was for sale, and it was red. And he wanted it, and he lives up in Wisconsin, and he's like, we never get trucks with the patina like you guys get in Texas. And he goes, look at this thing. And it was like the perfect, like it was straight as an arrow, all the like faded red with just the right worn spots, like exactly the patina you want, right? In a square body truck. And yeah, you couldn't get that in Wisconsin. Like it wouldn't matter, even if it never moved and sat there its whole life. The sun isn't enough to ever do that to it, so you forget about that stuff about how gnarly the sun is on, on everything like that as well. So
brutal.
Well, it was in Wisconsin. It'd be missing a bedside too.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah,
because it would have just rusted away. Yeah.
Exactly. Remember, I spent 6 years in Iowa. I watched bedsides flop going down the highway.
Right.
Oh yeah.
Stan Nelson. I'll take a little snow and pay lots of taxes in Western New York and not have crazy weather. I understand that, dude. I do. I got to tell you, I get it. Oh God. Well, all right. So boys, let's start off. I want to start off talking, Ryan, tell us about the Tailgate Throwdown. For those people that may be watching who don't know what the event was, etc., give them a quick, rundown on how this thing started, what it turned into, and how awesome it was, and what's happening next.
All right. So Tailgate Throwdown was 3 guys sitting on a toilet at the same time, simultaneously FaceTiming each other, talking about how one already had a 339, 305 stroke 339 Granulo 4-speed truck with nitrous on it. And the other 2 guys that schemed together, they were going to take a 305 and put a turbo in a Holly setup on it with an SM 465 and go drag race each other and smack each other around. That spawned into 2 days later, hey, let's invite a couple other people. Then that turned into let's have a shootout. Then it turned into, hey, let me start this Facebook group because I've got like 30 people in a group chat and it's annoying the hell out of me. And then it was like, oh, man, I should have done this publicly because now people keep inviting people, and this is kind of starting to turn into some kind of a thing. And then we ended up talking to a guy who owns a track, and he was like, dude, you should just bring an event here, and let's just do it. And I was like, okay. And then next thing you know, we start a Facebook group, and it starts growing. And I'm going to have to say it. We had the most badass all-truck drag race 3 weeks ago in Newport, Arkansas. And if you weren't up there, it's okay because we're going to do it again. And it's going to be even bigger and better than it was the last time.
I'm going to be at this one.
Dude,
come hell or high water, damn it.
Dude, It was, listen, we battled, we set the date in April last year. We got rain. We had those monsoons. We had to push the date and we let the racers decide. Racers decided in a vote that they wanted to go 1 month later. So we set it for like the first weekend in June. We got rain again. So we had to set the date back again, decided to go ahead and push it all the way back to October because historically October is good weather in Newport. So we pushed it back and then we ended up having more weather and not in our area, but with the hurricane situation. And we had a lot of people that were coming from the East Coast and that were coming from like the not Georgia, but North Carolina area, and a lot of places that got smashed by that hurricane. So, and then we had a couple of guys that were actually coming from the other side of the country, from like California and I believe Nevada, but those guys were linemen and they had to go work mandatory 3 weeks in the hurricane stuff. So we lost like, I want to say 25 total trucks from being at the event, whether it be because of their homes being damaged, their cars being damaged, or them having to be called out to work. So that being said, we still had, I think, somewhere around 60-something trucks on the property. We had in the show on Saturday, we had 52 or 53 trucks in the show. Friday night, the grudge racing was amazing. I mean, you had guys from all over the place that had talk smack on the Facebook page we had created, which now is about to hit 3,000 members already, which is nuts. And then, so there was solid grudge racing and testing all freaking night. I mean, it was amazing. Saturday, the show kicked off early. Everybody got testing in. We let them test for about an hour and a half. We went straight to eliminations, and we went through it in 5.5 hours. 6 classes, 5.5 hours. Everything was done. No oil downs, no wrecks, and we had 3 races that were won in the finals by thousandths of a second. 3 different classes.
That's awesome.
And then in the outlaw class was won by a tenth and a half between a nitrous truck and a turbo truck.
It was
damn,
dude. It was killer. The track it's tough. It's a very tough track. It's one of the only tracks around that a lot of guys are saying that you have to learn how to hit it with everything you got and then back out of power all the way down the track. As you go further down, you got to keep coming out of power. So it was a learning curve for these guys with the faster trucks. But Brian Britt showed up and brought out the Beetlejuice truck.
Right.
And
nice.
All weekend. And he reset the track record. He went 5:17 out there at 145. And that was the track record. He reset it. So,
yeah.
Man, it was great, dude. It was everybody had a great time. I emceed for the first time in my life, and everybody was there said that was the most fun they'd had at a track, and they can't tell me how long. I've had guys messaging me saying that they haven't had that much fun racing in 25 years. So
nice.
Dude, I feel like it was a huge success. I met so many great people. We got some of them in here tonight. We had John Mears come all the way from Michigan. He brought him and his buddy. They brought 3 trucks down. He went to the finals in Mini Outlaw. He's got a 9% team. And we had Jonathan Morgan drove all the way from Florida. Dude, his house gets smashed. Are y'all still there? I'm frozen.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
There you go.
Yeah. This story is insane. Yeah.
Yeah. So Jonathan Morgan, I got to tell you about Jonathan Morgan. This guy came into the scene, into the Facebook page, and starts spouting off that he's got 287 cubic inch small block in a square body, and that he wanted a piece of Squeaky, Chad's 339. Well, then he was like, I also run a little bit of juice on this thing. I want to get into small tire. I'm like, what? So a week before we were supposed to hit the first date, he goes out testing and cracks the block in his truck. When he did that, he tore up a rod, I think, and I think he messed the crank up. Something went south in the webbing of the block. So he calls a friend in Washington State. They send him a crank, rods, and pistons. He has a 307 block. He smashes this weird small cubic inch combination together.
Right.
And it does it in 3 weeks and says, hey, I'm put back together. I'm ready to go. Then we had to cancel it again. So when it rolled around for the October date, he is in the direct line of, the last hurricane that hit there?
Milton?
Was
that Milton?
Yes.
Yep. He's right by Cletus. So he was right in the direct path of this thing. And he messages me on Monday and he says, man, I don't know how this is looking for me. Now, this dude doesn't have a truck or a trailer because that's his street truck. He drives it every day and he uses it for whatever he uses it for. So he's like, man, I don't know if I'm going to be able to get a truck and trailer to get out of town. I don't know. And then he's like, oh, this is going to hit us. I got my mother-in-law's house, my house, and I've got my mom's house. So I'm taking care of all 3 of these places. I'm out, guys. I'm not going to be able to make it.
Right.
It's like, so it really depressed me.
Understandable, right?
It's understandable. Yeah, 100%. But I was like, man, I just hate it because that dude, he wanted it so bad. And then the night before we leave, he sends me a text message with his truck loaded on a U-Haul trailer behind a U-Haul box truck. And he said, all the houses are fine. The storm's gone. I'm working on something here. And I was like, what's going on? And he goes, I'll see you tomorrow. And I was like, what? This dude did all that work, got in the truck, drove through the night from freaking Florida to Arkansas and got there at 5:18 in the morning, was the first person through the gate. And he slept in that damn box truck the entire weekend. He made 25 passes. He made 3 different PBs, and he smacked around just about everybody he raced, except for when he got in the small tire class. He got a lot gun in there, but he went set with a 307. Okay.
Yeah.
307 on a 200 shot. That square body, full interior, full weight truck went 741.
Yeah.
In the 8th mile.
Damn.
It was a riot. Awesome. Yeah.
So I love it.
Yeah, it was really good. I was elated, excited, and I can't thank everybody enough for coming and joining us and being there and being a part of it. And I cannot wait for the second one. And we're working on dates. There's probably going to be 2 tailgate throwdowns in 2025. So
that's awesome.
Yeah,
that is awesome.
Yeah.
So
what about
this. Go ahead.
Sorry.
Go ahead, Aaron.
What about a tailgate throwdown drag and drive?
So
we've been having conversations about that.
Yeah.
And in fact, we just announced, I don't know if Ryan even have heard this or not. We did make the announcement when we were talking about our Mega Week, which is another one of the things we're going to talk about tonight. We were making our date announcements for Mega Week. There is going to be a tailgate class at Mega Week, and awesome. It is going to be anything with a tailgate. So it is going to be wagons and trucks.
El Caminos.
There will be an allowance for Suburbans and such that have barn doors in the back as well, because clearly a Suburban is a truck. Yes, El Caminos and such are going in that class as well. The reality is anybody that complains about that, which I understand, trust me, as a wagon guy and all that, but the reality is an S10 is a pickup truck and goes in a truck class, and it's the same weight as, a 69 El Camino or any of those things. So it's all the
El
same.
Camino would probably be the lightest.
Yep, exactly. And it's still going to weigh the same or more than a S10. So, so it's all there. So yes, but so there is going to be a tailgate class. And yeah, me and Ryan have been talking about some other things, some things that I haven't even told you about yet, Aaron. So tuned, folks, for some other cool announcements for some other stuff that is likely coming in 2025 here in Texas, where the three of us are located. So should be pretty fun. Trust me.
Well, I mean, we're talking about tracks that closed and tracks that are opening. Obviously, Abilene's getting ready to reopen. San Angelo's a new track down there. Flying H is a new track. I mean, there's, for the tracks that are closing, Irwindale's closing, obviously. But we're also getting tracks that are opening. So I wouldn't say it may be doom and gloom if you're in California and got 10 tracks left in the state. But I mean, overall, we're doing pretty good as an industry and as a sport.
Agreed. And I think that, we just got news today or yesterday that Pine Valley is not that Pine Valley's closing, but that the current management is just not going to continue, which I feel bad for Austin and them. I know they put a lot of blood, sweat, and tears into that deal. That's a tough one. There was no, and I hope I'm not speaking out of turn here, but there was no money in that deal. Like, they basically, leased the racetrack, and in order to make a living, they still had to work regular jobs, as all the staff did there. So everybody there was really volunteering in the grand scheme of things. And they just weren't able to keep their head above water, primarily because of too much water this year, because it rained out like 7 events there or something this year. And so it just really hit those guys hard. And I feel bad for them, because I know Austin was really excited about that racetrack. We went there on Rocky Mountain Race Week. We had a couple of issues there. On Race Week, not Rocky Mountain Race Week. We did have a couple of issues there. But overall, the people there were really nice, and it was nice to work with them. There were just some stuff that, had a hard time to deal with while we were there. But, I feel bad for them, because, we only want to see racetracks continuing to be successful. And that's one of those places that it's a cool racetrack. Like, it's a nice facility. I mean, they have like their tower's nice, and the racetrack itself is nice. The staging lanes are really easy. It's a good racetrack. I like it. It's cool, but it's just one of those deals where, man, people don't understand the amount of money that it takes to run a racetrack. And it's why we always tell everybody, instead of being on Facebook bitching and moaning about a racetrack that closed that you never went to, that was 2 hours from your house, then go do something about it, man. Go visit your local racetrack. Yeah. And you know what? Even if you can't go for the whole night of racing, roll through there, and instead of spending $15 at McDonald's, spend $10 to get in the gate, and then go buy a beer or go buy a hot dog or whatever, and stay there for an hour and go home, or whatever. Go to whatever Absolutely. It is you got to do, but support your local racetracks. It's a big deal,
Yeah, it's tough, man, and that's with Brian reopening Redline at the old Cedar Creek. It's one of those things where I was thinking to myself the other day. His angle is obviously the track surface there is not in good shape right now, right?
Right.
I guess there was an issue with former owner having somebody come and resurface it. They try to do it the wrong way, I guess, with floating it and then trying to cut it, and it didn't work out right. Whatever the reason, it's not great. So his idea is that we're just going to make this a completely outlaw, no prep track. And I, on one side of it, I think it's gonna hurt a certain demographic that wants to come and race there. But that track was already not in good shape because of the situation, and whether it's prepped or not, it's not going to be fun to try to get down. But for those guys that want to get down the tough stuff, they want to go do the street stuff, or they want to go run places like Indian Valley or anywhere else that's a very tough surface, then it's a great place to do that. So I'm hoping that it works out for him in that sense, that he can get enough outlaw people out there that don't care about the surface because they're more about making the car adapt to whatever they're in front of or on, versus somebody who needs it like flypaper all the way down there. So
well, and my only, yeah, go ahead, Aaron. I know what you're going to say. Go ahead.
So I had multiple conversations with people today regarding the San Angelo track, which was supposed to be a grudge and outlaw track. Is what it was opened at. They did a bracket race. It went off without a hitch, and the operator said, "Wow, this is easy. Cars are going A to B. They're not loose. They're not doing anything. He's making money." And so Abilene's supposed to open as a grudge and no prep track. And they're greatly urging the person that owns it and is going to run it, I think Limpy's part of that too, that you need to have some sort of bracket program. And the reason for that is that the grudge and no prep, unless you're putting up big money, is a very regional thing. Okay. Mm-hmm. And these guys put their stuff on kill. There are a lot of guys like us. They don't have a huge budget. We're not the Ryan Martins of the world.
Right.
So basically when they blow it up, they're out for a month or out for 2 months. And so your car count starts to suffer. So you can only put on a few of these events before your car count starts to dwindle. And that's where, bracket racing is not sexy. It's not. Okay. But you can have filler events that helps keep these tracks open. Mm-hmm. And, as far as the track surface not being great, listen, I went to Paradise in Georgia. I mean, I've never been to a sketchier track in my life that goes uphill and doesn't look like the rubber's been scraped for 20 years. At the same time, I mean, I chose to go down that track, and if you choose to go down that track, you tune your car for that track. Before I went down that track, I loosened up my shocks all the way in the front and everything else and adjusted stuff to get down that track. And I did. So as racers, we forget that there's knobs on stuff. There's timing controls that we can use. Okay. We just want to show up and let go of the button and just get a time slip and go back and, crack a, Coke Zero, whatever the hell you drink in between rounds. And they just forget that you have to tune. I mean, how many national events you've been to, Chad? That people bitch about the track, and, super gas cars spin the tire and everything else, but they don't bother to take the time, to tune their car to the track. So, the surface may not be great, but doesn't mean you can't have events.
Man, and that's the thing. Like the guy that won our outlaw class. Okay, his name's Chauncey. He's out of Georgia. He brought a truck called the Freak Show, and that truck is a twin turbo LS job. Makes around 2,800 horsepower. It's a serious machine, and they brought that truck on radials. And he said, "We're going to try it on radials first. If it didn't work, then we're going to swap."
Right.
And I have, if you watch videos, any of the videos I put out both days, I put out 2-day videos. If you watch some of the videos from the first night, they were sending that thing through there, and he was blowing the tires off, and he was riding that thing all the way to the back door, and it was all over the place. And I talked to him after the event, because they ended up swapping the slicks. They got it reined in and they got it done. But I think they brought 3 different sets of tires for that truck. They tried 3 different sets of tires. Okay.
Right.
And they, what he had told me is his laptop had crashed a couple weeks before, and he lost all of his tune-ups. So they came blind, and they had to find it, and it wasn't fast. I mean, I know what he ran, and it wasn't fast, but it was enough to get down there and get the job done. And that's what it takes. Like, I knew as soon as I pulled up, right? I knew when I walked over to greet them, and I saw Chauncey. It's hot outside. Okay, it's a little warmer than it was supposed to be. It was in the 80s. This dude's wearing a freaking thermal white shirt, okay, and a beanie. And this dude's dirty from working. And I'm like, this is the guy you don't mess with right here, because this dude, he came for one thing and one thing only, and that is to take home the trophy, take home whatever money's here, and go home a winner. And and they did it, man. Like, but I knew it from the get. And when the night was over on Friday night, they weren't out there hanging out, partying with us, having a few beers, eating some pizza. They went to their camper. They laid down and thought about what they needed to do, got up in the morning and swung for the fences and got it figured out. And that's what racing's about. And you're right, 100%, Aaron. Like, a lot of these guys go there, like they go there thinking, well, I'm just going to unload this thing, set the tire pressure on the same tune-up we did last week when we went 4.0s at Ennis, and let's just see what happens. And when they blow the tires off, instead of figuring out what they need to do to make it work, they want to spend their time complaining about everything else around them. And that's the difference between a racer and somebody who likes to go racing.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, and it's funny because you look at all these different mentalities, right, in racing. And so you get, let's use Abilene as the example, right? Because we're talking about it. Limpy wants it to be this no prep grudge. That's what they're going to do. And I get it. That's his world. And I love that world. I mean, it's our world too. So there are a bunch of people that are super excited because that's a cool little racetrack, right? I've never been, but I want to go bad now. And then you have a whole other group of racers that are like, wah, 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 all disappointed because it's opening up, but they can't go race there because they're bracket race guys, right? Yep. And so there's always one or the other depending on what the racetrack is doing. I hope, like Aaron says, that they also try a bracket race, that somebody comes in like Aaron or me or you or whatever and says, hey, can we just rent the track for 2 days? We're going to put on our own race. You just need to stand here and look pretty, and we'll handle it. And we do a bracket race and it makes everybody money. I hope they, understand that they can do that then and be, make it be a good thing. But here's the other thing. I also hope that bracket race guys will go no prep racing. And here's why I say this. So I have several friends who are diehard bracket racers. They race at big money bracket races all over the country. And several of them have cars that run in the low 5-second range, right? Like run in the 5 teens to 550s, let's say. Okay. And then other guys I know that have cars that run like 570 to 590. And I'm like, so put a kit on those bitches and go take some money, right? So, because here's the thing. Bracket guys are used to going out there and killing the tree every time. I mean, killing it, right? And it doesn't matter whether it's an arm drop or an instant green or a whatever, these guys are good, right? They're going to be on it. One thing you need to understand is that big money bracket racing, if you look at the tree, it's not a pro tree. It's a sportsman tree typically, right? So it's a 5/10 sportsman tree, which means there's a half second between the lighting of each yellow bulb. But top bulb racers, the guys that are using a delay box, they leave on the first bulb. So they let go of the trans brake on the first bulb. It's like instant green. That's when they're letting go of the button. And then the computer or the box is delaying it for typically somewhere in the neighborhood of 1.1 seconds to let the trans brake actually release, right? Because you're way faster than the car. And so that's how it works. Those dudes would be killers. So 2 particular friends of mine, both of whom happen to drive second gen Camaros, not as cool as Aaron's, but still cool. And one of them is a car that ran 590s, and the other one's a car that ran 540s. And both of them put 100 shot on them because they were both NA cars. Both of them put 100 shot on them and then went out there and left the 100 shot just on a button. Okay. Just get in it when it feels like it's hooked up and going. Okay. Both of them upgraded that 100 shot to 250, and both of them are no prep racing in their bracket cars with no other changes, and they are winning money. Now, are they going and winning the $100,000 race, with 200 cars entered? No, but they are going out against 40 cars and getting into the semis and or final round, and taking home money and racing the hell out of their car and having a good time, and not and at the same time not really worrying about making the thing run the number every time, because it just needs to go A to B every time, and that's what they're doing, and they're having a great time doing it, and that's pretty cool. So I want everybody to race everything.
It is cool. My reluctance to do it isn't that, because my car would be competitive with a 250 shot without a problem. And it would go A to B. The problem I have is you have what I call hero drivers. Yes. And those hero drivers, I'll be honest. If I raced a no prep race and somebody came into me and hit my car because they were stupid, I would probably end up in jail.
Yeah,
I would end up in jail.
I'm with you 100%. 100%.
So that's my biggest reluctance to do it. It's not that, because I know to live another day. I know when the car gets out of shape, you just lift. I've been racing for a lot of years, but it's those hero drivers that just worry the hell out of me. And there's even some of those that bracket race, that your local tracks, or some of those guys that just don't know, they're out of the groove and they get stupid. But there are a lot less of those in a bracket race than there is in a no prep event. Because everybody's like, oh, I can hit my scramble button and I can catch him. And, I'm sideways at the 330, but I still think I can win. That people need to learn to drive the car and listen to the car and the feel of the car, and know that, paint jobs are expensive. Don't want to pay for one. So what? I'll just take the L and come back and I'll race another round.
Yeah.
Yeah. I agree with that 110%. The smart racing is important.
I agree, because the, that never lift mentality, I have to say, I think that some of that has slowed down a bit in the last couple of years. I know that seems a bit ludicrous to say given the amount of crashes, but I feel like there are still less of them per pair going down the racetrack than there used to be. I think there are a lot more races now than there used to be, but there's still, I think, less people. I'll tell you, the people that I worry about, and I will never have an event where it's okay to do this, are the people with no nose on their cars or trucks. If you don't have a nose on it, you're not welcome at my event. Just always remember that. If your shit doesn't have a nose on it, just automatically know you're not welcome at a Chad Reynolds event. Now, you go out there and the nose blows off the thing, because the engine explodes, blows the blower off of it and all that, and you make every effort to duct tape some of it back together and all that. I'm your huckleberry, right? But if you just have junk that has no nose on it, no, you're not my guy. Not even a little bit. So you can stay home. Thank you very much.
We had a little bit of a discrepancy about that at the throwdown, because we had one guy in Mini Street that had a Rat Rod S10, but it was, I allowed him because it was a specific build. The truck, the body was set back on it. It had a 49 Studebaker bed. It had knobs for handles on the outside,
Yes.
So it was a specifically built, rat rod truck. And one of the other guys in the class was like, well, can I take the fenders and hood off my truck so we can match weight? And I said, look, what he lost in weight on the nose of that truck, and I've got one with the nose off right now, it ain't that heavy, number one, but he gained that weight and all that Studebaker stuff on the back of that truck. So did he put the weight in the right place? 100%. But is the truck any lighter than yours? No. And I tell you what, those two guys went to the finals against each other, and the guy with the nose on his truck went 62 thousandths faster, beat him by the front bumper that wasn't on the other truck.
Right. Speaking of front bumpers, recently there have been some records that have been posted with some no prep guys who actually are running a number and showing it off and this and that. It's very interesting because I am also pretty vocal about the fact that I'm not a big supporter of I'm going to call it the long travel trends that we have going on now. And that's not because there's anything wrong with long travel suspension, just with how well everybody is doing it. It's ludicrous. And I'm happy for the people that are making money, making a whole systems now for long travel that are completely unnecessary. But hey, good on you for making money doing it. But it's just
are you talking like long travel struts or
more the guys that are going even more than struts and doing crazy AA arms and all these things. And yes, long travel struts too. But one of the things that's interesting. So I happen to know some guys that just did testing in the last 3 days in a Fox body Mustang that ran a very awesome number. Okay. Deep in the fours.
You talking about Joey?
Talking about Beater Bomb?
Well, no, this wasn't Joey, but Joey is one of the people posting records. Yes. We use Joey's car as the example. Joey's car going down the racetrack the whole way, the front tires are barely, bouncing up and down off the ground. Most of that is because the wheelie control that's in it, is pulling some timing as it tries to climb. But it's at the end of all its suspension travel, right? So these guys have a very similar combo, run a little quicker than Joey's number. And they did some work with with another suspension company who said, we want to try some stuff out. And actually put a strut package together that's the right way. And the car, they literally took their long travel stuff off after running 3 passes, came in, pulled complete assemblies off, put complete assemblies on. We're talking 45 minutes, okay? Ready to rock. And all of the times, like short times, all the same as they did 3 runs and then 3 runs. Everything was comparable except the fact that, and the video proves this, the car was more stable to drive, okay? The mile an hour was higher and the ET was lower. And not because the incrementals were better for any reason except that when you leave the starting line on a drag strip, the timer starts with your front tire. When you cross the finish line at the end of a drag strip, it's supposed to be tripped by the front of your car. When the front of your car is this high in the air, you are tripping it with the tire. So they picked up real numbers, okay, because the overhang on their car is 34 inches. And that means that they were 34 inches closer to the finish line going down the racetrack than a car with the nose all the way up in the air. You know what I mean? So it's pretty interesting stuff. And it's interesting how the dynamics change. And it's also interesting because we all know that the trends, are up and down and all around and people are doing different things. I mean, I also saw a post on Facebook yesterday that was a picture of some 4-link brackets that were upside down on a car, actually on a truck. And a bunch of people were going, oh my God, who's the idiot that put this thing together? And then a couple of people were like, yeah, that's a radial car setup. The 4-link in those cars is backwards and upside down. So yeah, it was set up as a radial car. Everybody's like, oh my God, the separation on that thing will be insane. I'm like, have you not seen a modern radial car go down the racetrack? They look like absolute shit. When they're 100 feet out on, they look like complete crap because they're all stink bug like this going down the racetrack. They're horrible, So yeah, it's pretty funny.
So I have a question, Chad.
Yeah.
So, I mean, obviously with Pro Stock and everything else, they've done air dumps and stuff like that for years and everything else.
Yeah.
Has anybody ever done an air dump in the front?
So that is exactly what I'm talking about. Yes.
They did an air dump. That's what I was thinking when you're talking.
That's 100% it. There are a couple of ways to do it. I actually recently was helping some people with a design on a setup where they didn't want the adjustment to be in the shock. They wanted the adjustment to be in the mount because they didn't want anything to be changing the valving of the shock. I don't know why, but they were worried about that. And so we designed up a small hydraulic setup. It could totally be electric or air operated either way too. But yes, the idea being just like we've done forever in drag racing, get the nose up in the air so it gets going down the racetrack, and then get the nose back down so it's not up in the air catching all this air. Yeah. I mean, that's the other thing from an aero perspective. It's horrible to have the nose up on the car then. I mean, you want the nose of the car to be as close to touching the ground as possible.
So my question is on that testing that was done, was that done on a prep track or a no prep track?
That was done on it was not a no prep track, but no prep was done the day of the testing.
Okay. So
you know what I'm saying? As they got to it, hadn't been raced on in a couple of weeks, you know what I mean? Broomed it, and that was it. And ran their car in their no prep trim with the way that they raced, like the same tune-up as they had raced at that track before. Okay. Right. And ran literally the same numbers that they had run there before. Like they race at this track all the time. So like absolute consistent. And again, ran 3, did the swap, ran 3, went back to the original setup just to confirm even. And yeah, the numbers were absolutely for real. And with the video, when you overlay the video, because they ran the next 3, when they ran the 3 with the stock configuration again, they did it in the left lane. They'd been running everything in the right lane before. They ran in the left lane and had video and then overlaid the 2 videos. So the same car was racing itself. You see what I'm saying?
Right.
And they put the video together to where both if you don't understand this, folks, if you shoot 2 videos and, if I was standing here in one video and here in the other, I can overlay the 2 and have a conversation with myself, right? So they set it so that the videos started with both cars leaving at the same time. So not reaction time or any of that, just actually movement of the cars at the same time and going down the racetrack so that it was as if they were racing each other.
That's like old school Need for Speed video game.
Oh, yeah. The closest run was 2 thou to the, half track different. Okay. And like, I can't remember, 100th of a mile an hour or something like that. So to the 8th, they were dead on even. Right. And it's after the 8th where the dump happens. Okay. So when you watch them cross the finish line, the cars are dead even. But the ET is better because the one in the left lane, the nose is down. Now, if you're racing on the street and somebody is just standing there judging who's out front, totally okay. But if you're racing on a no prep event that's using the wind lights, not okay. See, because the lights are 6 inches off the ground at the finish line,
Right.
So.
Yeah, that's where
are they 6 or 8?
Because you got
8. I thought you're right. It's 8. It's 8.
Yeah.
Yep.
It's below 1.5 inches on the starting line, or right around 1.5 inches on the starting line, because you have to be 3 inches up at the starting line.
Yep.
And so it's 1.5 inches at the starting line, but it's 8 inches at the finish line.
Correct.
See, to play devil's advocate, right? So I understand what you're talking about. It makes total sense. It's all about aerodynamics and everything else, right?
Right.
The lower center of gravity of the car, the better the air moves over the car, less underneath it, makes it more stable, right?
Yep.
But on the flip side, so there's two types of no prep racing. There's guys that go to just like, let's just say Armageddon, for instance, right? Armageddon's at Thunder Valley.
Yep.
They scrape the track, right? But everybody that races that knows that after one set of cars go down, rubber's there, and by the time you get into round two, the place is hooking and booking. But now you go to a place like Indian Valley, right? And I always go back to that track because it's a very tough track.
Yeah.
That track, as passes go down, the track goes away.
Yep.
And so, like when the last time we went out with Dave's car, he won his class against cars that were, I mean, his car's been 5.022 at 158, right?
Yep.
And he won on a 643 pass.
Right.
Now, when he went long travel, his car became more stable on a very crappy surface. Now, when he goes and puts that car on, when we went to Ennis, right? For instance, we went to Ennis, right? He wanted to try it with the travel there just to see what it would do. And it did exactly what we thought it would do. And then we tied the front end down. And she went A to B. I think it was like a 121 60 foot, which has got more in it. We just haven't got to that point yet. We were supposed to go this Saturday, but now it's going to rain. But so I think there's a place for both setups, and where if you're racing in Indian Valley, if you have that front end down at the end of that track, you're going to find yourself in more trouble than you would being up in the air and on the back tire as hard as you can.
Right.
Because it's
but that comes back to tuning the car to the track.
Correct.
Yeah, definitely.
Absolutely.
But in that instance, at that place there, you can have your anti-roll bar set at neutral because there is a crown on either side. And you can have it set up as much as you want, and it transitions. When you get about 200 feet, it transitions, and then it changes from crown to no crown. Then it goes back to crown. So if you got the car set up, and you've got anti-roll bar set up with the way you would at a track that's mostly flat, you go out there, you're going to find yourself bouncing off walls. And there's a couple of guys that tried to go out there and their track tune up on their no prep setup, and they damn near tore their shit to hell and back. But Dave go A to B. Yeah. And then he ended up putting an 18-inch travel strut on the front of it to make it even better. And he goes, man, it's hard to see, but the car, the faster it goes, the more power he applies to it, the more stable it gets. Now you go put it on a flat surface, then we got to start dialing the shocks in. We got to start playing with the strut travel. We limit the front end a little bit. Yeah. But when you're on surface that becomes slimy, you got to really just kind of get it on the tire as hard as you can.
All these guys are doing
is a couple of different ways to look at long travel, right? So one of the biggest problems that a lot of people have, and I'll use like my 69 Camaro, for example, right? Which is the same as a jillion GM cars, right? Basically every GM car, if you take Novas out of the equation, is either the same suspension as my car or the same suspension as Aaron's car, which is a late second gen. Okay. Those are, and it's front steer, rear steer. The rest of it's all almost the same. So here's the thing. Guys are putting in upper shock mounts where they're getting rid of the factory upper shock mount, putting a bigger upper shock mount in them to put a longer shock in them. But the problem is this, they're putting all that stuff in, and in a lot of cases, they've never optimized what they have. So on a drag car, let's say, I'm just going to throw a number out there. You only need 1 inch of compression. Okay.
That's all I have.
So if you have 8 inches of suspension travel, and remember, like, if this is a control arm and this is the wheel end of the control arm and this is your shock, you have a thing called motion ratio because the shock is not all the way out here, right? Mm-hmm. So wherever the shock is compared to the pivot, okay, you'll have a motion ratio, which means that, let's say it was directly in the middle, it means that 4 inches of travel here is really only 2.75 at the shock, right? You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So if you look at that and you look at a 69 Camaro, and let's say you go, okay, it has 8 inches of travel. Well, if you have 3.5 or 4 inches of compression travel, okay, then let's just say it's 4 inches. Then you only have 4 inches of droop as well. Well, you don't need 4 inches of compression. So if you set the thing up right so that you only have 1 inch of compression, you have 7 inches of extension. Okay. Right. Like you already have long travel with the geometry that's there if you just set it up right. And
and you control it with a bump stop.
Correct. And there are so many suspension companies out there that are really, 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 really good, who just like pull their hair out every day because guys call, and it's different if you're with the strut car, right? Because the strut is right there behind the wheel. The strut is the spindle, depending on the car and you know, what have you, you know what I mean? Or is right at the spindle, etc. So that's a little different. But on a control arm car, dude, it's insane. It's absolutely insane. I have a friend who has a 2nd gen Camaro with a tubular front end, as far as control arms and all that, that are Ride Tech control arms, with their Delrin bushings in them. And he was saying, oh, I need to change this and that because I want some more suspension travel and blah, blah, blah. And he's running coilovers. And I was like, dude, let's just move the bottom of the shock. And he's like, wait, what? Mike, just move the bottom of the shock. So all we did was move the bottom of the shock 1 inch inboard, which means that for the same amount of stroke on the shock, you're getting more stroke at the wheel. Done. I mean, literally required us to drill 2 holes.
Yeah.
That's all we did on each side. And that was it. Yeah. 2 holes on each side. That was it. That was all we did. I mean, and I mean, yeah, I scratched the paint up a little bit because it's hard to drill a hole under the car and the thing, but it was like, we didn't care. Put some duct tape on the thing and hogged a couple of holes in it. Like legit, jack the car up, slide the shock over the 1 inch and put the bolt in it and off to the races. I mean, you're done. Now, you may have to change spring rate or adjust the, whatever. But again, all adjustments, not replacing parts and doing big crazy things. If you have factory control arms on your junk, oh dude, and I was running no prep, I wanted to be able to change travel, I would cut my factory arm right down the middle, and I would do, just to be stupid, I'd use 3/16 probably C channel, and I'd lay that in the control arm, right? And with holes, 6 or 8 holes in it. And I would put that in there and weld it all in. And that way I could move the shock to wherever I wanted. I could make that thing have no travel or all the travel. And it'd be, super cake to do that and make it really fun and adjustable. So Rod was talking about this when I've heard about this, that there's a Datsun Z car in Northern California that has a winch that pulls the front end down. I know this car and it's been this way for a while and it's pretty cool. Literally going down the racetrack, like after it's set and happy, it just starts pulling it down. Got the idea from off-road Jeeps. Because Jeep guys will put a bunch of droop in the suspension, rock crawling, and they get up, but sometimes they get up somewhere and the weight is trying to pull and the suspension is way sagged. They need the nose to get down to put weight on the front axle. They hook the winch cable to the front axle housing and pull it down, and it gets it up here so that it'll climb up over an obstacle. It's pretty cool. They've been doing it for years now on serious off-road, rock crawlers and Ultra 4 trucks and those kinds of stuff. So pretty cool. Yeah, it's a pretty neat idea.
On your thing about A-arms, and I have aftermarket A-arms on my stuff. The one thing that you have to pay attention to greatly is a stamped factory A-arm and where that lower spring pocket is in relation to the aftermarket one. Because a lot of the aftermarket ones put that spring a half inch to an inch lower.
Yep.
And you don't realize it unless you compare them side by side. That changes geometry, it changes everything else. So, I mean, I ran for years with Delrin bushings and factory A-arms with a piece of all thread through them for a travel limiter, and the car worked great. I got tubular stuff now, and it works just as great. It doesn't work any better, honestly, than the factory stuff did.
Right.
That's
what I was looking at doing.
It's funny you talk about all thread. If you're not a bracket racer, you may not have ever paid attention to this, but if you look at QA1, for example, QA1 sells tubular arms for if you want your car to handle or if you want it to be a drag car, and they have different stuff on them for the drag race stuff. So their drag race arms are lighter weight, and they have an adjustable bump stop in the upper arm, which is what Aaron's talking about. Literally, that's threaded in the upper arm, and when the thing goes to full travel and the A-arm droops down, this bolt is sticking through and it hits the frame, right? And the longer that bolt is, the less the suspension can travel, right? So, and you adjust that to get in addition to the shocks, right? So it's pretty cool. There's a lot of simple stuff, man, that works really, really good. But the innovation is, I nerd out about all that. Like, I love that stuff because you know me, Aaron. I'm a product guy. I love fabrication. I love designing stuff. All those things. If somebody decides they're making the control arms with the Chad Reynolds adjustable lower mount, then just make sure you put my name on it. It'll be fine. Send me a set. For
you talk about no prep or limited prep or whatever else on tracks. If any of these guys ever went to the Million or went to some of these the Great American Bracket Race, any of those races where they're running 250, 300 cars through, and they may do a little bit of spot spray on the starting line. They may have sweep it once in between those 250 cars. So you have to have a car that literally, I mean, that's why my car is set up to ride the rear tire at 50 feet. Because you look at all the bracket cars that quote unquote win. I mean, nobody just kind of hops off the line and goes down the track and wins besides a dragster. But in a door kart instance, you have to be able to go down that track on a 108-inch wheelbase or whatever, where everybody else is in the same spot. Some people don't have their stuff together. They blow the tires off and they strip the rubber off. So you have to have a car that will transfer weight. And that's where the long travel stuff came from. And I was going to equate with that, you know what they're doing? They're just going back to gassers. That's all they're doing.
Exactly.
I mean, they're making a Fox Body Mustang a gasser,
Exactly right. That's funny. Lycan just asked a good question. So Lycan says, here's something I've always wondered. Can an air ride equipped car be fast, or is it just too unstable on airbags? So yes, it can. You can go quick on air ride. And just to, prove it or what have you, I'm actually going to do that. My 56 wagon is on air. It's chassis swapped and all that, but we've been working on new design because we're going to do a bunch of changes to the chassis on that thing and cage it and make it my no prep and drag and drive car. And it has to stay on air ride because that car is super famous for sitting on the rockers and having the front bumper drag the ground. And I love air ride stuff, and I've always loved air ride. And so, yes, we are going to have that thing on air ride. It's going to have some other aftermarket components on it from a couple of cool companies that I've already talked to about some different stuff. But none of what's going to be on that car will be things that anybody couldn't obtain. Like, it's going to be all readily available parts. I'm going to use them. I'm going to use some parts together that normally don't go together, but anybody could do it. Like, it's going to require little or no fabrication for the air ride portion of the suspension. And I'll be running Lamb shocks on that thing, front and rear. Derek is looking forward to tuning the shocks for that thing because it is different. The spring rate on an air spring is different than a coil spring, but the cool part is it has no stored energy like a coil spring does. And so that's good and bad sometimes, but rest assured, I will have my ECU tied into the air suspension so that thing will maintain a set ride height at certain mile an hour using the ride height sensors and stuff, which is actually really easy to do. That's not a big deal. But yeah, the air will actually make sure that the thing is where it's supposed to be going down the racetrack, which will be pretty cool.
I have some great ideas for that off camera.
Cool. Excellent. I'm in. Piston Jones says, I love long travel. Awesome. I love your dog. Your dog is cute in that picture. Wickman says, my 91 OBS truck is going to be bagged in the front with a heavy duty rock crawling 4-link with coilovers in the rear. It will lay out in the front, and the rear will be a 10-inch static drop. There you go. John Mears, this all sounds too rich for me. I like simple racing.
That's my
simple racing.
That's my runner-up in the Outlaw Mini right there. That's the guy from Michigan. He's a good dude. Yeah, and I'm telling you, like he is his truck. I didn't get to spend a lot of time looking it over, but I could kind of tell his truck is stock suspension. Like it is a stock suspension setup. It's got slapper bars on it, and he was 2 mile an hour off from the fastest ET of the weekend.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Dude, I love Caltrax. I love 4-links. I love ladder bars. I love all of it. But dude, my Camaro has never had anything but a set of slapper bars on it in its whole life. Like I mean, I could put a set of Caltrax on it and maybe it would be a little better. But what I ever want to do with that car, like it looks better with slapper bars under it, like because that's what it's supposed to be, it's supposed to be that year, so it's kind of cool.
John, comment in there, is your truck on slapper bars? I can't remember, John. I think it is, but I could be wrong. It could be on Caltrax, but that truck was awesome because it didn't look like it would never be as fast as it actually was, and that thing ripped like crazy. It's funny because like when I used to race an S10 with my buddy Clayton, that's what we did. We did small tire stuff, all street stuff with that truck. It was never on track, but
says it's ladder bars.
We back out. Oh, is it ladder? Oh, it is ladder. Oh, okay. I thought it had which? Oh, maybe it was the other truck. One of them had slapper bars on it. Maybe it was another truck there. But anyway, we had a truck that was on Caltrax. Our truck was on Caltrax for the longest time, and then we ended up back halfing it and put it on a 4-link setup in it and put it on a 29.5, 10.5, and it was a whole different game changer. But I loved the way that truck raced and ran when it was on slapper bars and Caltrax. Hey,
Lippy in the house, dude. Lippy, we were talking about you a bunch earlier.
Yeah,
I mean, a bunch, dude. And now he just swoops in with a pretty mouth comment. It's perfect. It's perfect.
That's my buddy right there.
Oh, that was great. Hey, RTC. Also, I want to give a shout out to RTC. Dude, I haven't talked to you, and I feel really bad right now because did your house get tore up from the hurricane? Is that why you're living in a hotel right now? I didn't even know that. So, no. So, John Mears says regular slapper bars. Okay, there you go. Yeah, there you go.
That truck was on slapper bars. Yeah. I know if Limpy was behind me, he'd have his finger near my backside there.
We don't need to know that. We do.
It's fine. Oh, dude, RTC, you need to hit me up later after the show.
Yeah.
That's so awesome, dude. I love it. Okay, so we got to move on. We are at we've already been on for an hour and 12 minutes. Okay, we got a couple of things. So one thing I want to talk about before we get into another contentious subject is Mega Week. So Mega Week is on. We have announced. Sorry, I can't see what that.
Why don't you run through it, Chad? Dates and stuff.
Yeah. That's what I'm getting ready to do. So Mega Week is. We just announced the dates. All of that. We are super excited. Here they are right now. So next year, in May and June, as you can tell right there, we are going to be doing Rocky Mountain Race Week and Race Week. It is going to be May 31st to June 7th. Okay, I'm going to go over the tracks and stuff right now so you guys will know. So if you are not familiar with what we're doing here and what we have decided we're doing, you can see my cursor here. So normally we run 2 events a year. We run Rocky Mountain Race Week in June, and we run Race Week in September, okay? This year, we are doing both of them at the same time, okay? So, Rocky Mountain Race Week will be referred to as Group A. Race Week will be referred to as Group B for this example. So, Group A will be, and the racetracks are, we're starting in Tulsa, Oklahoma. So, May 31st, Tulsa, Oklahoma, that is Tech and Test and Tune Day. June 1st is race day number 1 in Tulsa. June 2nd is race day number 2 at Flying H in Missouri. Day 3 is a drive day. Day 4, we're racing at Noble, Oklahoma's Thunder Valley. And the following day, we're racing in Ennis at the Texas Motorplex. Then on the 6th of June, the next day is a drive day back to Tulsa. And that night, we are going to have a big, giant racer party with a concert and a bunch of stuff. We're doing our awards, all those things, because that will be the end of the averages portion of the Dragon Drive. On the 7th is going to be our big money shootout and bracket race. So normally we have a top 8, a second 8, and then the next 16 quickest cars on the property for the event. Well, we are going to take the quick 8 from Group A and the quick 8 for Group B and put them together. We're going to take the quick 8, the next quick 8, and the next quick 8 from each group, put them together. We're going to take the 16 and the 16. You get what it is. And we are going to run a big shootout, and that's going to be for tens of thousands of dollars for each of the classes. So here's how it's going to work on a regular day. On a regular day, Group A, Rocky Mountain Race Week competitors, those people are going to be racing from 7 to 2, okay? And then from 3 until 10 will be Group B, which will be Race Week. So they are 2 separate events happening at the same racetracks on the same day. That's the way you got to look at it. So you're either going to register for Rocky Mountain Race Week or you're going to register for Race Week. Either one. Now, you cannot double enter. You cannot enter both, I should say. If you are able to get in and get 2 registrations for one event, knock yourself out. But you cannot double enter by racing in one and then the other. I wanted to do that. Matt said, hell no, not happening. So, which sucks. There are literally 4 people that can do that, and that's because they won some awards that included some registration, so they can technically do that. I don't think any of them will. Now, you can see the registration dates are down here. So Rocky Mountain Race Week, which is Group A, registration will be January 10th and 11th. Now, the reason 2 days is January 10th is for those people who have already competed in Rocky Mountain Race Week last year and have veteran status. They get to register a day early. On the 11th, it's open to the public. Now, if you don't get in, you should get on the wait list. And then you should try the following weekend. The 17th will be for veterans of Race Week, the 18th to the public, and you should register it in that one. Now, again, if you don't get in, you should get on the wait list. You want to be on, if you don't make it in, if you are not one of the people that gets in on registration, you want to be on both wait lists. It doesn't make sense not to be, right? Because you need to double your chances of being able to get in. It is rare that everybody on the wait list doesn't get in on one of our events because people register and then fall out because they blow their junk up or don't get it done or whatever. So this is a big deal. We want everybody to do it. We're going to live stream the whole thing all day long. Don't even get me started on the shit show that's going to be, because I'm also announcing with Adam Dory, there isn't very many hours in between the end and the beginning. And so the traveling and the thing and I need Cletus to come get me in the helicopter every day. That's what I need to happen. Yeah. And I don't know if Garrett's in for it. if somebody knows a helicopter pilot who's a drag and drive aficionado who would be willing to do that in some form or fashion, for their name on all kinds of things as a sponsor, dude, hit me up. Chat@bangshift.com. I'm totally in on that. That would be rad. So yeah.
The name that comes to mind is Eric Bain. Eric Bain, I know he has a plane, but he might have a helicopter too.
Yeah, well, even a plane would be good because I can get to an
airplane. And he's a Texas boy, so I mean
that's true. And I know him, but I don't know him. You know what I mean?
I know him.
The George Diaz says, Chad, 2 different cars, 1 in each event, or driver limited to 1 event? I'm going to say driver is limited to 1 event, George. Hit me up and we can discuss. RTC says, take a breath. Come on. John Mears, Ryan might want to bring it.
So it's become a thing. I don't know if you've seen when I rode along with one of the stick shift guys. Yeah, it's become a thing now, and we're going to probably do something for charity where I haven't figured it out, but where I ride with people in cars because it's just not good.
It's not good. It scares you.
I don't like riding. I don't like not being.
I know. I don't either. I'm with you.
Scares the you know what out of me.
I like being the guy driving. I'm with you 100%.
I'm the same way. We might be able to provide some on-track support, so we'll see.
Yes. So and that's another cool thing. There's going to be a bunch of cool new vendors this year and sponsors. If you're interested in sponsoring the event or the live stream, please hit me up and we'll talk for sure. But there's all kinds of coolness going on, and we want you guys to be a part of it. So definitely keep your eyes peeled and go out there for the Rocky Mountain Race Week page. If you are a drag and drive person and you want to be in on all the latest news, go to Facebook to RMRWers. That's RMRWERS. Join that group. All the announcements go out to all the RMRWers late, or early on that stuff. So you can get all the information there. So it's good.
Quick question.
Yes.
One, do you know which one you're announcing?
I don't. I don't.
Okay.
It may swap day to day because of the traveling. We're not sure yet.
Gotcha. Somebody asked. Yeah. Next question is: are they doing the Young Guns class in both?
Yes. So we are going to do Young Guns. We are going to do Young Guns class. Well, no, hold on. We are doing Junior Street class for both events. Yes. We are also doing our Young Gun Awards and our Rookie Awards and Wicked Chick Awards for both events. Again, from your perspective as a participant, these are 2 drag and drives that are separate, and you're going to enter one or the other.
Okay, just want to make sure.
For the rest of us that are involved in putting it on, it's a cluster. But for you as a competitor, you're either in one or the other. And everything you expect from a Rocky Mountain Race Week or Race Week will be in both of them. So again, 2 sets of Wicked Chick Awards, 2 sets of Young Guns, 2 sets of Rookies, 2 sets of Veteran Awards, because we do that on the RMRW events as well. And then Junior Street in both. The only thing that may be different is if there are not enough motorcycles to do, because we're the only drag and drive that does motorcycles, by the way. If there are not enough motorcycles to do 2 full fields, for each, one for each of the events,
combine them.
Then we have given them the option, if they agree as a group, then they would race in both events. So they would come in and they could just race like at the end of the morning and the beginning of the afternoon, and they would do both, and it would be a whole crazy thing for those guys only. So yes. Ray Shannon is asking, so no event in September. So yes and no, Ray. So there is not going to be a race week in September as you know it, but we are working on a 3-day event that would be in September, time frame, September, October, back in the Rockies. That would just be a 3-day, a weekend drag and drive to get us back into the mountains. And so stay tuned for that as well. So that will be another event. So in theory, we'd have 3 events for next year. So and maybe some more.
Need one in Texas.
I know. We're working on that. I have a feeling that these 3 idiots right here on screen right here, folks, are going to do what we can to make that happen. So yeah, exactly.
Yeah. I mean, Abilene, San Angelo, Ennis,
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I'm sure Lippy's down.
Wichita Falls.
I know. I have some other ideas, and Limpy would be down with our original drag and drive that we wanted to do.
Yeah.
Remember, Ryan? 100%. So yes, so the 3 of us need to talk offline for sure.
Yeah.
So
hey, real quick, just while I'm in my head, for the junior street.
Yes.
Just so everybody's clear, which I'm sure a lot of people are, but I can't seem to wrap my head around. Jake has to be NHRA licensed in order to run that class, correct?
Correct.
And it is
for those of you that are correct. So for those of you that don't know what Junior Street is, we were the first ones to run it for Drag and Drive. But it's a program that NHRA started that allows 13 to 16-year-olds to run in full-size cars down the drag strip with a co-pilot. So their mom or dad or guardian or whatever rides shotgun with them, also with a helmet on and all the things. So that if there's a need, they could take the wheel or what have you. The junior street competitors, whether you're racing in a NHRA bracket race or in like your Summit Series or what have you, or you're racing with us on a race week or Rocky Mountain Race Week event, there is a licensing procedure. And you can look that up on NHRA.com. It's not anything difficult. It's what you're going to want to do anyway, because you want your kid to get some practice. But there is a 9.0 in the 8th mile that is the quickest they can go. Mm-hmm. So the way that it works for us, that we've done it for Rocky Mountain Race Week and Race Week, is that if using Jake, who's Ryan's son, as the example, if Jake went out there and on day 1, his quickest pass was a 9:35, right? Then his goal is to run 9:35 all week long. Okay. Right. Whatever you run on day 1 is your target index. Okay. You cannot turn a time slip in that's quicker than that the rest of the week. Okay. It's the equivalent of if you signed up and were running in 12.0 index or 10.0 index or whatever. You see what I mean? Right. So, and the reason for that is so that we can get kids to come out in, mom's daily driver. Like you don't need something that'll run a 9.0. You just need something that will go down the racetrack every time and be consistent. And so there are a bunch of cars that kids are racing that are their parents' race car that their parents is also racing. Okay. Yep. So they run, mom and dad or one or the other are racing this thing going, 9.0s in the quarter. Right. And then they, pull all the power out of it, take the boost out of it, set the rev limiter at 4 grand, whatever. And the kid goes out there and runs the thing 9.0 in the 8th mile. Right. Or 9:50 or 10:50 or 15:50, whatever. We don't care. And that's awesome. And they're having a great time doing it. It is such a fun deal. We have had moms and dads so a husband and wife with 2 kids, the mom with the daughter in a stick shift Fox body, the dad with the son in a stick shift 55 Chevy station wagon, doing the whole trip for the week. That's epic. Like that is what it's supposed to be all about. We've always been a bring your kids drag and drive. It's why we started Road Week. The the power tour, side of Drag and Drive that has become popular with Sick Ward and all those things, that because they, took our formula, which is great. We support that. But we're the ones that started that because we wanted families to come. We want people to come and experience it. And the other thing is, if you sign up for Road Week, because you don't care about being in the competition all week, you will get to go down the racetrack. If you are one of those people that you're like, man, I just care about making a lap every day at the track and getting to say my car ran this at whatever racetrack, we don't guarantee that you will get, more, or that you'll get a run every racetrack, because it all depends on time. But in the last 3 years, we have never not given the road weekers at least one, and usually 2 or 3 shots at the racetrack during the day. So as we get later and we're getting less cars and people need more time in between rounds, we're letting the road weekers go down, which means you need to be there on day 1 to go through tech as well, because we do tech your car if you want to go down the racetrack. If you don't have to do that. But it's really cool. Yeah.
Okay. Cool. Well, we're either coming in my black truck and Jake's driving it, or we're taking his truck Saturday to put the engine and transmission in. So if I can get it done, we're coming in as S10. One of the two.
Right. Yep. Oh yeah. It'll be awesome. It's super cool. Like, it's one of the neat things. We have a lot of special awards. The Wicked Chick thing is like, very near and dear to my heart. And me and Cody started that, a few years ago. And I have to tell you, I'm really excited because I got a bunch of cool stuff, hopefully, for the awards and stuff this year that are going to be really, really neat. But having all these different, elements to the events really makes them fun. It's more complicated, but it's super, super cool. So, we're really glad to be a part of it. And Aaron's company, Texas Precision Performance, is going to be helping out this year, which will be fun as well. And just as FYI, if you guys are not familiar with Aaron was the GM at Quick Performance for years. Aaron was the GM of Quick Performance before any of you ever heard of Quick Performance, and then made it into the Quick Performance you guys all know. And then him and his wife moved to Texas, where her family's from, and he started up Texas Precision Performance. So if you need third members and you need them built, or you need parts for your rear end, Aaron is your dude. So hit up TexasPrecisionPerformance.com and he'll get you set up. Chad. So yeah, he is really, really good at it, and builds rear ends for everything from a drag and drive car all the way to pro mods and everything in between. So
hey, Aaron,
we were building a diff at World Series of Pro Mod. We're building a diff for JR Gray in his pit.
Yeah.
So
exactly. Yeah. And those are what, a 10.5-inch ring gear now, right?
10-inch ring gear, 10-inch.
Yeah, 10-inch. Yeah. Okay. Yep. Yeah.
Great.
What were you going to ask, Ryan?
Do y'all do narrowing as well, or do you just build the differentials? Do y'all?
We just build the differentials. I mean, it's there's only 2 of us here. We stay plenty busy. We try to quick turn around everything, and we have a really loyal following. I mean, we do. So we stay busy, and it's a good thing. I mean, we've gotten a lot of customers have a lot of winner circles this year. So I mean, it's been a good year. So I mean,
that's awesome.
I mean, when your customers win, you win.
Yep.
Yeah, absolutely. If you are interested in, parts and pieces for your hot rod or your race car, remember, go check out bangshift.com, all of our great advertisers there. And of course, hit up Aaron at Texas Precision Performance. If you're looking for brakes or shocks or struts, or a variety of other things, go see Lamb Components as well. Tell Derek and Missy. Missy will be the one that answers the phone when she does. Tell her that Chad sent you, and they'll take good care of you. They're awesome. They make great products. So, in fact, the rear end that I have for my 56, Aaron built for me at Quick Performance with Lamb symmetrical ends on the housing. And I have a set of 40 spline gun drilled quick performance axles that are set up for that thing as well. And he'll be the guy that's building the 9-inch center section for it, or maybe a 9.5. We'll see. To go in that bad boy as well. So it's going to be pretty cool. So I'm excited for sure. So, awesome. Okay. So next thing, and then we're going to cut it because we're an hour and a half in. Street Outlaws. Are the Street Outlaws dead? Is Street Outlaws still a thing? What do you think?
Dead.
You think it's dead?
My sources tell me that basically this was the last year of No Prep Kings.
Yeah.
That's what my sources are telling me. Obviously season 6 did not get picked up by Discovery. Discovery got a new president. The new president does not like automotive, which is evident with them dropping other shows as well. So not naming names, but you see a lot of big names out there doing some sales of parts saying, I'm upgrading for next season, blah, blah, blah. I don't know if it's true or not. My sources tell me that basically there is no plans for another season 8, quote unquote, at this time. Right. I know a lot of drivers are tired of traveling, across the country. The last few races, the spectator count was down a little bit. It's still a good show. It's a great thing to go see in person. I've been to Ennis and seen it there. I've been to Tulsa, seen it there. Right. I've been to a lot of them, and it's like any other no prep event. You got bigger names in it, but at the same time, and I have friends that are on the show, so I'm trying to tread lightly here, but basically right. They lost their relevancy with the average racer. So, right. You look at farm truck, anybody can build a farm truck. Okay. And be somewhat competitive. Okay. Right. It's, 632 on nitrous and blah, blah, blah. There's not a ton of chassis work. It's not like a chassis car. Right. Shout out to Sean for winning it. He's a great dude. Yep. He really is. And they worked really hard to win it all this year. And that should not be discounted at all.
No.
But at the end of the day,
car is considerably different than farm truck. Like for your example.
It is. And so when you look at a relatable brand, right? You look at your Camaro, Chad, or, your 55, or, you look at something that you're relatable to, and it's kind of just gone outside that realm. They're not quite to a duck race.
Yeah.
Right.
They're kind of a tweener in between. They don't have the TV coverage anymore. Part of the problem with season 6 is everybody knew what happened, the night it happened. So what was the point of airing it? Short of all the sponsors didn't get their due justice for what they provided in parts and everything else. So I just don't see how it can be moving forward, how it can be sustainable unless they put it back on TV.
Yeah. And I got to tell you, and I've never said this in public before, but I will now, when they, this last season, when they decided it wasn't going to be on TV anymore, they hit me up, and not just me, several streaming organizations, about streaming the races. And I was asked by a friend to talk to them, because that friend was helping them out. And the management there was, and this will come as no surprise to anybody that knows them, was condescending and one of these, who I am, and what we do kind of people. And there's really only room for one of those people on a phone call. Hello. So I was like, dude, but anyway, they wanted to do pay-per-view, and I don't do pay-per-view. I have done pay-per-view for a couple of people over the years. You'll never hear me talk about it, because, pardon my French, but you don't pay for porn on the internet. You shouldn't pay for drag racing. That's just my feeling on it. I'm sorry. It just is what it is. Right.
So I watched duck race in a long time because of that.
Correct. Yes. I believe that flow racing is one of the problems with drag racing today. Yep. Is what they've done. And now they're dropping all these races that they, paid big money to stream to the people that ran the events, taking big events away from, guys like me. And that's okay. Like, I wasn't mad about that at all. But again, I don't believe pay-per-view is the way to go. So they hit me up. They wanted me to talk about it. They wanted me to do the the live stream or talk about it. They wanted me to give them a bid, all these things. And I said, look, I'm just not interested. So I don't want to give you a number because I don't want to do it. Like, I'm going to give you a ludicrous number. Like, it's $100,000 a weekend. How's that? Like, because if you're dumb enough to pay that, I'll take your money. At which point it became, you could make money on it and this, that, and the other, and blah, blah, blah. Ultimately, I didn't pay any more attention to it. And then all of a sudden, like, it wasn't pay-per-view. Like, they got it all going, streaming and whatever. And then it was pay-per-view, and then it wasn't pay-per-view because nobody was paying for it. So they had nobody watching. So then their sponsors weren't getting anything. So then they brought it out and just put it on YouTube. And like you say, I feel like it lost its luster because they didn't just bring it out right away. They needed it to be live and make a big deal of it being live, like never before, and really play it up. And it could have been something special. And I think they screwed the pooch on that one. So, what had it run its course already? Maybe, but I still think there was some time, left with it. Like you said, it's good racing. I've never been to a No Prep Kings event as a spectator. I've only been there as a racer, helping out. And it was fun races to go to, just like all the races, honestly. But it's, it's not, it's just not the same. And I know that the money isn't there without the TV. So I know that that's not the same for those guys. Although I got to tell you, man, those dudes going to events, like, they're making tens of thousands of, the big names are making tens of thousands of dollars a weekend on t-shirts, like insane t-shirt money. So I don't know.
Well, they're charging $35 a t-shirt.
Yeah. I know.
And I mean, on top of that, you want the ultra VIP package. You're paying $200 for, an entry as a spectator.
Right. Yeah. No.
I mean, which is insane. I mean, NHRA doesn't even charge that shit.
And the thing of it is to be honest with you, like the racing is good, but see, my problem with it is like, I spent so many years, out in the darkness with Limpy, and I've seen all them dudes run a million times. I've seen how fast their stuff is on the street, and it don't matter. I mean, it's all the same. Once you've seen these guys, once you've seen it, it's all the same. And they let it all go to their head a bit, and the competition climbed, and they made these cars so out of control that it's just not relatable at all, like we were saying earlier. And it kind of turned into NHRA for me, because I don't like the NHRA. I don't ever support any NHRA event. It's just bleh to me. So and that's what it kind of turned into. It just turned into the same old.
It's not about the racing. It's about the personalities. Is what it came down to, and the personalities came from TV. But when you haven't watched a NCIS for 2 years, how much do you really know? I mean, it's one of those things where you're either super into it, and that's your hero, or it just falls by the wayside. And a lot of these guys, I mean, hopefully a lot of them saved money that they made, because they made a lot of money doing this stuff. But I just don't, unless a network picks them up, or some sort of, even a pay-per-view, Chad. I mean, something to market this in a greater stance. If somebody were to do that, I think it's viable. I think it's a viable product. I mean, it's, the guy I talked to today, he goes, you know what? It's like Monster Jam. And he's not wrong. Okay.
Right.
It's like Monster Jam. Okay. You go to Monster Jam for the show, and the showmanship and everything else. And so it's like a Monster Jam. And if they were to market it into that kind of that realm, I think that you could get there. But I mean, I just don't see it happening. I don't see, you're corralling, what, 30 racers or whatever else traveling across the country back and forth. I mean,
right.
With sometimes a worse schedule than the NHRA, which NHRA is horrible about planning a schedule, as far as how many times they have to go across country.
Right.
And, you're spending $1,500 on fuel just to get to the next event. So, I mean, and then if you break something, hope you can find the parts for it, because now, you're running Noonan, you're running, whatever else, and I mean, these aren't off the shelf parts necessarily. I mean, yes, I mean, Noonan has some stuff, but I mean, you can't necessarily get a cylinder head in 5 days to make the next event. You completely torch it or get it repaired in time. So,
well, and here's the thing: when you look at the Street Outlaws guys, right? Just like any other race, this is the one thing people forget. You go to any drag race, okay? It doesn't matter what rigs people have in the pits or any of those things, right? At the race you go to, some of those people at some point were the guys with no money, okay, or very little, and maybe they've made it through racing. And some of those guys were rich guys before, right? And had money. Okay. That's how it is anywhere you go. It doesn't matter whether you're drag racing or playing golf or whatever, right? That's how it is. And it's the same with Street Outlaws, right? Some of those guys are, no matter how street they are, were dudes with money, with big shops and lots of cars and all the things. And some of those guys were regular Joe Schmuck, idiots just out there having a good time. And the reality is that on the very first episode, okay, of the show, those guys were thrilled to death. They're on TV. Who wouldn't be, right? It was a dream come true. What the producers quickly found out was these guys didn't have enough money to blow their shit up every week and then put it back together. Not without getting help because they were on TV, right? Not without getting Pro Charger or Mickey Thompson or, insert whoever, Holly, whatever here, to sponsor them for parts. At which point, the television producers are like, well, if you want to have Holly on your car and it say Holly on the car, then Holly has to pay us. And they quickly learned that doesn't work, because if you don't let Holly give me parts and me put a Holly shirt on and you show it on TV, then Holly doesn't give me parts and I don't have any money to rebuild my shit to race it again in 3 weeks. Right. And that's how it all started.
That did happen. I mean, I won't say it was Holly. I don't know if it was Holly that was the first one.
Oh,
but
no.
There was, it was 100% what happened. And the racers had to come back to, I mean, Pilgrim was the production company, it still is production company. And they had to basically be like, listen, you can't edit this out, because if you edit this out, we don't get parts. If we don't get parts, we can't race. And, I will say that here's the difference between a No Prep Kings event and an NHRA event. David Comstock's a good friend of mine. Okay. Sean Ellington, I consider him a good friend of mine. I've watched those guys in the heat stand out and sign autographs for an hour and 45 minutes at a time. And I don't care what NHRA racer you pick out of the program, none of them do that.
Right. Yep.
They literally will stand out there and they'll take photos, they'll sign t-shirts, they'll do whatever else. And so they're working. They're working. Yes. So I will give them kudos that basically they know the fans basically write the paycheck. Okay. Yes. They buy the t-shirts, they do everything else, and they work it very hard. And, I don't want to sound like they're scamming the customer, but they're not. They're basically interacting with their customer on a very good basis. And that's where the NHRA racer is basically on the wayside. Oh, I'm going to go out here to the fence sign for 30 minutes and, sign autographs, and then I got to go back and do whatever,
Right.
And so
I
just
say that you bring up Sean and Dave, and, like you said, both of them friends of mine, good dudes, super fun to be around. And like, if you're watching and you only know Sean as Murder Nova and you only know Dave as Daddy Dave, then awesome. Like, I'm glad, and your fans, that's great. We love you for it. But I will tell you that if you know them on a personal level, they're both like awesome dads. They're, family people who go out and have a good time.
Yeah, they're great dudes. And competitive, but they're great dudes.
Yes, they're fun to be around. I've had the good fortune of racing with these guys a bunch of times. I've had the good fortune of being the guy doing top end interviews with them. All those things, and giving them shit and having fun. And they're good dudes that are great characters that know how to put on a show. And if somebody keeps doing that, they'll be all right, but if not, then the whole thing is for naught.
Back to the streets they go.
Yep.
The streets never close.
Right. Oh, we lost Aaron. It looked like he was having phone issues.
Yeah.
So Scott Liggett, Rebel Drivers Garage, saying Finnegan's last video, he interviewed a few of the racers, and Murder Nova was saying that each race cost them about $10,000. And that's right. Yep. That absolutely right. It is expensive, and the reality is that no matter what kind of racing you do, it costs money. It costs money if you're just going on Sunday out to XRP to race at the Grudge and Test and Tune. But there's different scales, you know what I mean? And, and Limpy, is a good example too, right? Limpy, is flagging all these great races and, all over the country and doing really neat events. And the reality is that sometimes the cars that are on each side of him when he's getting ready to, bang the light, are people that are, have stuff that looks like it won't get out of its own way. There he is. He's back.
Sorry.
But the reality is there's still money in those races, in those cars. I mean, there just is. Yeah, and no matter if you're eating bologna sandwiches, it still costs money to get there and to keep the thing running and all that,
100%. And it's funny. It's funny. I'm glad he's in here because it's some of the best years of my life, and I say this all the time.
I've heard it many times. It's not just because Limpy's on here.
Yeah. I know, but I say it many times. I want him to hear it because I don't know if I've ever told him, but besides having kids and having a family, all that stuff aside, right? The best years of my life I spent in the darkness with those guys right there.
Yeah.
And I miss those days more than I can express because those guys were real OG stuff. And when Limpy got retired from street racing by my Camaro, and he became the ringmaster of the DFW stuff. Man, none of us thought that it would turn into what it was and what it became and what it still is really. But man, anybody who is a street racing today that wasn't there back then, man, they missed some of the greatest stuff. And when the show came on, it was cool because I could sit there with my kid, and my kid loved racing. And I tell him, hey, Daddy knows him. Daddy knows him. Daddy knows him. And Daddy knows him. And we go to track events and, Hamilton. I'll never forget. I have a picture of Jake with Chris Hamilton. Right. And I said, hey, dude, I was like, bro, I've known Chris 20 something years, man. I love Chris. And I told him, hey, my kid thinks you're like some crazy fancy TV star, man. Will you come up and meet him? He goes, yeah. And so he comes up in the stands. Jake's like 4 years old, man. And he comes up in the stands and sits down, and my son's jaw is like, he's like, oh, it's boosted GT. I'm like, yeah, it's right. It's boosted GT.
Yeah, right.
Yeah. So he shakes his hand and hangs out with him for a minute and made my kid's day. And I said, you know how weird it is that 4 years ago, me and you were drunk with traffic cones on our heads in the middle of the street, waiting for the rest of the guys to get to where we're at. We're acting like we're in an airport because he had stuff, and we're all just out there, hey, because his car was broke. I'm like, dude, and now you're on TV, and my kid thinks you're like some star. It's just crazy, but But I'll just end it with this: is that the Limpy revolutionized the hell out of what we did on the street. We were a bunch of lost puppies that had some stupid NTSR message board that wasn't organized, and he came in and organized it. And every person that street races today, or back of the tracks, or no preps, or whatever, if you see that man, you better go kiss his ring, because it's because of him that it is what it is. Hands down.
Yeah,
period.
there are Limpies
he's a legend
all around the country in their own little areas who've done the same thing. And whoever your Limpy is, I mean, our Limpy is now a big deal, obviously everywhere, but that's a big deal. It is. And I remember when I first moved here the first time in 1997, street racing here in Dallas was weird. People sat around and talked a bunch and didn't do any racing, and where I was going, and I was like, what the hell? This is a strange deal. And then there were a bunch of big busts and all this stuff. This was in the late 90s, and it was just odd. And so I didn't race for a little while, and we had 8 million drag strips here, so I wasn't worried about it. And then the North Texas Street Racers message board, I thought, because it was on the forums, and I thought, this is the weirdest deal. Why would we talk about this in public? Like, aren't the cops going to pay attention to this too? Like, literally, that's what was going through my head, because I worked in the high tech world. So to me, everybody was on these, right? But it wasn't. That wasn't. If you weren't on Die Hard, you didn't know. And so I started paying attention to them, and it was great. And it was, it's a long time ago. I know it makes us sound old, but yeah, dude, like that was a different time.
Bro, I'll never forget when I got access to the secret boards. Dude, I was like, man, they look like one thing, and you typed in your code, and next thing you know, you're backdooring it, and you're like, dude, what's going on in here? Yeah, dude, I love it. That was just awesome times, man. Awesome.
That's awesome. I love it.
Yeah.
All right.
Message board's great again.
Yes. Hey, we still have the forums on Bang Shift, and they are like, I literally just had the conversation with not this Ryan, but the Ryan that runs our server stuff, about an update that we need to do. And we're getting to a point where we're getting. Yes, hey, Libby. Dude, yeah. I've heard, but I don't want to know. But I've heard there's a funny story here. Is it right? Can we share this with the world, or do we need to do this offline?
Oh, no. We can share it with the world. I used to work at a speed shop, local speed shop, and me and Clayton, the guy I used to race with, we both work there, and sometimes we get left alone in the showroom for hours on end, which was a horrible idea. You don't leave me and that guy alone doing anything. And so we would do stuff like, hey, I wonder if you could stand on the counter there and do a backflip off onto the slicks, and and this, that, and the other. And so one day I had invented new karate moves, and one of them was the pterodactyl, and it involved me acting like I'm not going to do anything, and then I fly across the room in a fast pace with a very high pitched, like that. And anyway, the theory worked on a lot of people, but we used to have a buddy named Aubrey, God rest his soul. We just lost him a little while back, and Aubrey was funny, and him and his buddy were hanging out. We were at the first cash days in Oklahoma. As a matter of fact, is what it was, the first one that we did in Oklahoma. And we were in a hotel room. And Big Aubrey, he was like 6'5", 6'4", 300, now probably 500 pounds, 480 pounds. He's a big boy, And Limpy's like, hey, try the pterodactyl on him. I was like, okay,
no way.
And so he's filming it. And there's an old, like, 16-bit video that Limpy has of me going up to Aubrey and doing this in the hotel room, and Aubrey doesn't even budge. This open hand bitch slaps me across.
No,
damn,
like you were nothing.
Like I was nothing. dude. It was great. It was, I was, I was a little bit, I had some problems mentally at that age. So, every time I see him, he'll be like,
no. Hold on.
Oh, boy.
I just want to give kudos to Limpy for this. He spelled pterodactyl right. Like
he
Limpy, dude, as a guy who writes for a living, dude, misspelling shit drives me insane. So kudos to you. In fact, I actually literally just checked to make sure that was how you really do spell pterodactyl, because I wasn't sure I could have. So major kudos. Look at that. Thank God for spell check. Hey, being smart enough to use it, my friend, matters. Yes.
I know Limpy's too busy to watch any of my video stuff, but back in my older videos, I had an intro that it said a screaming pterodactyl production. That's what that's from. That's
why I knew it was because from back then, because that's when you told me the story. When we were watching videos at your house the first night that I went to your place. Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, God. All right. Well, ladies and gentlemen, we have been on for 2 hours. We could go for 2 more because we're dumb. And we have a good time. I hope Absolutely. That you guys have all enjoyed the show tonight. Aaron, welcome to the show, and I'm looking forward to having you on. This has been great. It really, you fit right in between the peanut butter and jelly, or maybe you're the peanut. I don't know. Who's the bread?
I'm the bread. I'm the bread. I'm the bread.
You're the bread that holds the peanut butter and jelly in. There you go. Yeah. And we're the peanut butter and jelly that cannot be held in normally. So he's like keeping the bread from going and
I'm the jelly.
Dude.
Shit's everywhere.
You are definitely the jelly. Yeah. I'll be the peanut butter. It's fine.
A little sticky. Yep. Chad's a little sticky.
Yeah.
Oh God.
It's been great, guys.
Limpy.
I look forward to the next one.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yep. So everybody, we are working on a guest list. Limpy, we want you to be on the show. We want you to be one of the guests for sure. So in 2025, especially, we are going to get this thing on a real schedule, but we're going to try and do that through the remainder of the year. We still got a lot of the year left, obviously, as there's 2 months left. So our plan is to be live every other Wednesday. Right now we're on the final Wednesday of the month right here. I believe we're going to do first and third is what we're going to do after we get the SEMA show done, but maybe we'll do second and fourth being Triple B because we're already here and it's the 4th. So we're going to be doing, let's say, second and fourth Wednesdays. If you have somebody that you would like to see us get on the show, email me, chad@bangshift.com. If you want to be on the show, if you are somebody that you think you can bring something to the table, send me a message at chad@bangshift.com. If I ignore you, we don't think you're right for the show. No, I'm just kidding. Hit us up and we'll let you know how you can be involved. Also, remember, if you're looking for brakes or suspension components, Lamb Components, if you need a rear end built, Texas Precision Performance can handle all of your differential needs, parts, and assembly. And last but certainly not least, for Christmas, I will have pre-orders coming up in the next 2 weeks for you to order Beards, Burnouts, and Beer tumblers like this. And apparel. So shirts for sure, maybe hats, but shirts for sure. You'll be able to order those before Christmas. I will make an announcement, not next week, but the week after. And we will put up a pre-order. You guys will be able to order those. We will put a cutoff date so that we can ship those out so that you have them before Christmas. And we'll be doing those on a pre-order basis. Okay. And so definitely want to have you guys wearing your Triple B apparel for Christmas morning photos. You know, maybe we'll do a contest or something. We're also going to be doing some fundraising stuff for next year as part of Triple B and Power Shift, which is the other podcast that we do. if you have some ideas on some stuff for that, hit me up as well, chat@bangshift.com. But we've got some cool stuff. We want to help some people out. So definitely pay attention. We got a ton of stuff coming. Doug Delay, Chad, you need a live stream from Streetcar Super Nationals. Yeah. Might be some stuff. Wickman says, don't worry about being ignored. I do it to him all the time. Absolutely, I do. Yes, 100%.
You know what we're forgetting?
What?
We've got the Christmas cruise coming up.
Dude. Okay. Now we should start talking about that now. So, so the Christmas cruise is Christmas night. Okay?
This year, it's not because Christmas falls on a Wednesday, some weird stuff. Some people may have to go back to work the next day.
Oh.
So I'm thinking.
So are we doing it the Saturday after or the Saturday before or what?
I think we're going to go Saturday before, and I'm working on trying to get with someone at Children's because I want to do something a little different this year. I want to do like a toy drive where we all cruise to Children's and drop off toys for the kids that are stuck in the hospital. So
I'm in.
Working on that. I'm out of Tailgate Throwdown mode, into Christmas cruise mode, but I got to stay in Tailgate Throwdown mode because you're going to probably announce dates in a couple weeks on that. But stay tuned. We'll put something out about that. I'm probably going to create a Facebook page for it so that we can get everybody on there and get the meet spots and all that kind of stuff. So.
And if you're anywhere in the Dallas, Fort Worth area or within a couple hours, you got to come to Christmas Cruise. It is the most unorganized, like big group fun thing you're going to do. And normally it's Christmas night and literally like all of a sudden there's 100 cars showing up in a closed Home Depot parking lot or Lowe's or whatever the hell it was. And then there's a driver's meeting and 75% of the people pay zero attention to anything Ryan says. And then we go have a good time. And it's rad because we shoot video and we laugh and we tell lies and do stuff until like burnouts in places we shouldn't until, I don't know, 1 or 2 o'clock in the morning. Then we go home. It's perfect.
Yep. I'm in.
Yep. Waffle House and we're done. I think first year we had 14 cars. Last year we had, I think, somewhere around 82. So
it was awesome.
The 4th annual. Let's try to hit
I'm in.
Yeah. Okay. I am going to make the proclamation. I will bring Ethel, Daphne's wagon this time because it's sitting ready. It'll be fine. I have stuff to do, but I'll bring it. Yeah.
Do it.
I'm going to bring the wagon. Yeah. It'll be good.
All right.
Sweet.
Okay. All right, everybody.
Thanks, boys.
Love you all. Thank you so much. We'll see you guys next time. This has been Triple B. You guys are awesome. We love you guys for being a part of this. And we'll see you next time. See ya.
Later.